Are you triggered?
Dear John, you make me sick.
Okay, so that's probably a word that's been tossed around a lot for the last 5 years, that we're beyond sick and tired, or at least I am. But today, let's talk about some of the things that trigger us to stumble and fall into some of the temptations that we fall into. And it's important for us to note these things, to have an action plan, right? So today's gonna be a kind of 2-for-1-y. You've probably heard me say in other videos, when you're at your strongest, plan for when you're at your weakest. A part of creating an action plan is you have to know what you're gonna do when trouble comes. So when you're at your strongest is when you're implementing all the tools you need for those days that you're not feeling so strong. And there's gonna be days you're not. That's just the truth. So let's talk about having an action plan. And we start with our triggers. Triggers, in the context that we're using it, simply means something affects your senses in such a way that either makes you feel like an event is going to happen or reminds you of an event that has happened. So let's use it in a positive way. You smell apple pie, it reminds you of Thanksgiving, right? You see fireworks, it reminds you of the 4th of July. There's certain sounds that remind you of good things, but then there's certain sounds or sights or smells.
Do you smell it? That smell, the kind of smelly smell,
that might remind you of bad things. You hear a vehicle screech to a stop, right? And it triggers a memory about a very terrible accident you were in, a vehicle accident, right? That can be a negative trigger. When we're struggling with temptation, lust, pornography, addiction, or even substance addiction, we have to be aware of what triggers us, okay? So let me give you an example in my life. For a good long time, I really couldn't go to the beach because a beach in the summer is a place that's extremely hot. People are gonna wear bikinis, right? And some bikinis are smaller than others.
hang your head in shame.
It's triggering to be there and have all this going on around me. And so, especially early on in my recovery, those were places that I would avoid. I just didn't want to go there. I didn't want to disrespect my wife by happening to look somewhere I shouldn't have looked or any of that. Not to mention, I didn't want these things circulating in my head, right? Because along with seeing these images reminds me of old things that I used to see or watch or whatever. Certain music, right, that is played. Fair warning, I say right a lot. So if you're gonna keep account, let me know in the comment section. But I say it in all my videos, it's just kind of a thought process. It's good to be aware of those things. It's good to write those things down, say, okay, when I see this, or when I'm here, or when I go there, or when I watch television at this time of night, or I'm on Facebook at this time of night, I tend to feel the urge to want to go and doom scroll. Those are things. There are some things that are more subtle, we'll say, right? And those are the triggers that we're least aware of. Those are the things that we don't realize cause us to be triggered. So, again, for myself, when I was early in my, or even before I had fully started my journey of recovery, you know, I coped with stress by going and looking at things and doing things. I coped with loneliness by doing those things. I coped even with success by doing those things. All of a sudden, when you're down and out one day, all of a sudden you start feeling the itch. And that's kind of when you begin to realize, oh, hey, this is a trigger. You can't stop things from happening, right? You can't stop yourself from having a bad day. You can't stop yourself from being yelled at from your boss, or maybe you and your significant other, you guys bump heads. Those are just parts of life that you're going to have to learn how to deal with. So an action plan is, for those sorts of things, is what's a better way to cope with stress, right? So for me, let's say me and my wife aren't seeing eye to eye. Sometimes I'll go take a ride. And it's not because I don't love her, and it's not because I don't want to be around her, but I have learned in marriage, there are times that it's okay to step away to allow the temperature to cool down. So when the temperature cools down and you guys come back with level heads, you guys can have a conversation. And a little marital advice I'm throwing in here. So we got all kinds of information happening here today. This is good advice if you're getting married or if you are married, okay? The madder you are, the less your brain is thinking. You gotta go into caveman mode and it's like, man, smash, right? And it turns bad. So do yourself a solid. Go find somewhere where you can cool off, relax, regain your senses, and then come back and have a conversation when both of you guys are in a better place. Dealing with stress. Sometimes I go work out. I'm huge in VR. I love VR boxing. I love it's a workout, but it's also I'm getting to pummel the mess out of a guy, a VR opponent. So sometimes that's a great way for me to go get the stress out and also get a workout in. So I'm getting a dopamine release. And I walk away feeling a lot better than I initially did. Sometimes you just need to take a nap.
Oh, mere sleep now.
Wake up, feel better. Document these things. You should be able to take some time out on a piece of paper and write down everything that you feel and when you feel it. And you're not going to probably fill that entire list out today. What I suggest is fill out what you can figure out, right? And then when you have an episode where you feel triggered, try to remember what triggered it and go write that down as well. Another thing, there are certain shows that might trigger you. There are certain video games that might trigger you. Those are things that you may have to either temporarily break away from for a while, or hear me out, there are certain things that you may have to break away from permanently. So I use Covenant Eyes to monitor my devices and be accountable. I also use an app called Vidangel. You can get on Roku, I think Chrome. And what it is, it's like a web service, or it's a streaming service. And what they do is I don't think Disney or Hulu works on it, but most of the other networks, like most of the other streaming services do, and it'll take out some of the stuff, right? So where there used to be shows that I couldn't watch because of the content in it, because I won't allow myself to feed that, I can now watch because it's safely been removed, right? So that's something to consider. But then there are other things like video games where everybody's raving about GTA 6. I will never get to play it because there will always be stuff in it that I just don't need to encounter, right? There are other video games out there that, as much as I'd love to play them, I just can't. And that's something I had to learn how to make my peace with. And in the beginning, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And you're even going to feel a little sad about it. But when those moments come, I want you to think about what it is you're fighting for. And I promise you the sacrifice will always be worth it. Okay, guys, well, that's going to about wrap up this video. If you love the content, I ask that you please like, share, subscribe. If you know anyone who could use this content, feel free to share it with them. No shaming. If you need prayer, leave it in the comments section. As I always say before, you don't have to go into great detail about it. Just ask to be lifted up in prayer, and I'm going to pray for you, whoever you might be. The other thing is, in the description section, I leave a link to the 40-day devotional challenge I did that helped me on my journey to find success. Everything I talk about here, you're going to find in there. That has been my teacher. That is, aside from obviously God and the Holy Spirit and the conviction of the Holy Spirit and guidance and everything else, and my wife who's been phenomenal, and a lot of the other people I've been able to count on in my life, that devotional has been kind of like a boot camp for me. And I feel like it'll do a lot of men a lot of good to read the devotional. I was thinking about a book called Every Man's Battle. That's another very good book. And If I can find the link for that, I will leave that in the description section. But I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Touch grass. Hug your family. Love you. Peace out.